Ah, good. You're away. Hey, 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 hey. Your children are fine. You aren't, of course, but yes, I know. Quiet down, please. They went as far to give me a monologue, but there's only one important part. You don't know me, but I know you. Blah, blah, blah. Ah, yes. Due to your partner becoming a terrorist and breaking his contract, your life is forfeit. Oh, he didn't tell you about that part, did he? That's very unfortunate. Well, to be fair to him, he probably didn't remember you existed at the time of his betrayal, so perhaps the policy should be re-examined. Still, examples need to be made. I'm going to give you the courtesy of a choice. Axe or fire? Axe it is. Hello and welcome to Visionary Holdings Maximum Security Prison. I'm the Director of Wellbeing, Rose Ganymede, and you're watching our introductory tape. Whatever unfortunate thing you've done to end up here, know it is not the end. This prison does not intend to keep you here forever, but before we go over how you may possibly be reintegrated back into civilization, let's go over the prison layout so you know where you will be staying in the meantime. Firstly, you have your cells, which I suspect you have become fairly well acquainted with. A, B, and C block are patrolled by guards at all times, but that doesn't mean you'll be entirely without entertainment. During downtime, the library will be accessible, and I have personally ensured it is stocked with the finest reading materials available. Additionally, the courtyard will be open to you as well. Here you can keep yourself strong, relax, or play games in the pool, and even challenge your fellow inmates to a game of ball should you fancy it. Of course, eventually you'll need to eat, bringing us to the cafeteria. Once you've lined up and taken your food from our diligent kitchen staff, you can take your seat at any of the 3 feasting locations. The upstairs and downstairs will be able to seat the vast majority of you. However, if you feel like sequestering yourself away from the main bulk of inmates, you can walk straight down the hall and into one of the quieter portions of the facility. I've even gotten an exotic fish tank imported for your viewing pleasure. I myself have an office that a few of you may get to visit from time to time. As the Director of Wellbeing, I am the mediator between you and the prison staff. Being as this is a facility of proportional punishment, if you feel that a guard or situation is making things unproportional for you, you may feel free to request a meeting. It is requested that you consult your fellow inmates for any other issues before coming up so all matters can be addressed in an efficient and timely manner. Anyone who comes to my office receives complimentary tea and biscuits. Do note that any other unmentioned sections of the prison are strictly restricted unless otherwise stated. Despite my attempts to make your stay more pleasant, this is still a prison. Keep that in mind, adhere to prison staff, and it is highly likely that you will be just fine. Now that the tour has concluded, let me go over what you'll need to know to get out. Some of you may be familiar with prison labor laws, ones that require us to pay at least 0.5% of your production. It is my pleasure to announce that our prison does not conduct predatory policy and has increased this to 2%. Upon first inspection, 2% may still seem low, but when you take into account that you will be receiving 2% of any diamonds you mine, you start to see how we fund your reintegration into society. Once you've worked off your punishment, I'll give you a good pat on the back and then send you off with Ish, our attentive train conductor, towards better things. It is my genuine hope that such a day passes for each and every one of you. Thank you for watching this informational video. Let's get to work,
The
people.
weather anomaly is getting larger. Requesting location immediately. Transport 5? Come in. Transport 5 doesn't exist today, it seems. You know, come to think of it, we only have one train. Shouldn't it be Transport 1? Nah, whatever. Yeah, day 1 was a little rocky. Even if OBS hadn't betrayed me, I wouldn't have gotten any audio of substance due to the constant crashes. Here's the summary. This was a prison event. I was one of 5 directors, the Director of Wellbeing, and I was here to ensure everyone was treated well, and oh boy did that not end up happening. With 300 people flooding into the prison and coming to terms with their jumpsuits and the oncoming zombie apocalypse, I had my work cut out for me. Immediately, we got the prisoners into the cafeteria, and the prisoners got themselves into the kitchen to raid it. Almost none of the guards currently had handcuffs, so I had to take matters into my own hands and drag people out myself. Duffson, our internal security manager, was literally staring people down at the kitchen entrance. Additionally, the guards hadn't gotten an introduction to the facility, so they didn't know their way around. Luckily, the prisoners weren't able to use doors, press buttons, or break blocks, so the prison still held as well as it should. Before long, I was checking people over and making sure none of the guards were being too overbearing, as I did see a bit of that behavior. So let's take a break from the mess downstairs and come up to my office. You see, I'm still playing the same character as the Lion King event, so I have several mementos of that time sitting on my wall. Subject A. Mr. Gladiator 99. If you saw my previous video, you would recognize the man who drove me to insanity back then, and here he is now, robbing the unguarded director's offices blind. I caught on to this possibility in event due to Xavier's playing a music disc that was heard by the entire cafeteria, and all I had to do was look up to see their name tags. But I only found out the full extent of their theft post-event, and if I had known, both of these men would have been wearing jumpsuits by day 2. This scene does, however, foreshadow just how much trouble Gladiator would cause in the future. Speaking of theft, TD and Mia had decided to become a mobile library after ransacking the whole place. I didn't do anything about it, however, since the whole purpose of the library was to be distributed to all the prisoners, and TDM was doing exactly that. The books consisted of half actual short stories, to poetry, to jokes like the B-movie script, and a rickroll. It was at least some comfort to the inmates as we shuttled them all into their cells for the night. That concludes day 1. I know, already? Well, let's get the meta information out there. Between bad server lag, server crashes, and long waits due to those problems, no one was happy with the growing pains. We had almost 370 people in one place, and the server could not handle it. This spurred on a lot of negative behavior, and Lights went into overdrives getting things ready for the next day. He had under 24 hours to get the server up to snuff, and luckily he did. However, as the person who'd literally been put into the moral support role, I was starting to realize that perhaps I was a bit too harsh on Diana Troy.
Will, I sense how upset you are. You're angry and impatient.
Deanna, back off.
Both out of RP and in RP, I was helping people calm down and get back to the place we all wanted to be. Having fun. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. What was supposed to be a chase scene as the prisoner's train broke down due to zombies had become a 45-minute wait, and all hands were endeavoring for that not to happen again. I knew, however, that with technical issues removed, day 2 would go a lot better from an enjoyment standpoint. All the directors had a document where we would ping ideas off Captain Lights and fulfill a sort of mini dungeon master role. We had a lot of influence as to where the story could go, and oh boy, we will get to that. But my job was clear. I needed to get everyone on the same page, and there was no better way to do that than the Citizens Herald. Canonically, while everyone was off crashing the Titanic, I was running a full-on news organization on the mainland, and this fresh emergency was a perfect excuse to start up a micro-newsletter within the prison. Unlike last time, I wouldn't need anyone but myself to make these, reducing the chance I'd be driven insane by power-hungry employees. We'll talk about the only other Citizens Herald employee later, as that's quite a story, but for now all you need to know is that I had 16 hours to pump out the news and did so in 4. Additionally, I was going with a video format this time, and thusly, the first issue of the Citizens Herald went out.
I'm Rose Ganemy, the Editor-in-Chief of the Citizens Herald and the Director of Wellbeing at Visionary Holdings Maximum Security Prison. It is my responsibility to look after every person in this facility, so I've decided to reignite my newsletter with the aim of keeping all in the prison informed while this situation unfolds. This morning I was at my desk attempting to parse a weather anomaly when we lost contact with Ish, our train conductor. Apparently, this was due to a large zombie attack, and so far no explanation has been provided as to where these zombies come from. Luckily, due to the efforts of our esteemed guards, the prisoners were escorted to safety with minimal casualties. Additional information on the ones who did not make it suggests that if you make physical contact with any of the undead, you run the risk of becoming infected and perishing shortly after, with a 40 to 30% infection rate. I'm sure I don't need to say this, but do not approach any of the zombies. I am working very hard to ensure there are no needless deaths, and I don't need one of you becoming infected for the vine. Frankly, I also find the concept of the undead to be offensive. However, that's a non sequitur, and I must move on. Many of you will be wondering what precautions we'll be taking to prevent this crisis from spiraling out of control. I've received word from our perimeter director, its Ghost, that the War Guard has been doubled in preparation for any oncoming threats. Every single guard is armed to the teeth, so any zombie that comes to our walls will be torn to shreds. Combined with the watchtowers and horses we have, the walls are even more secure than they were before this crisis. That being said, those guards are still putting their lives on the line for us all. Let them do their jobs, but make sure to thank them once the dust settles. Now I must address internal affairs. As the Wellbeing Director, it is my pleasure to tell you that I am your advocate. Yes, you. It doesn't matter the occupation. If you are a part of this prison, then I consider you my responsibility, and working with our warden, Carl Crafts, I hope to shape an environment that both allows the guards to do their jobs, but also one that acknowledges that we are no longer in a typical prison scenario. A lot of rumors have been going around saying that corporate is still going to make the prisoners work. These rumors are true. So the question is, why work? Luckily, it isn't an arbitrary need. In fact, it is quite vital. I've received word from my resource director that we are cut off from the mainland, but some transmissions have still gotten through. The tough thing about working for a corporation is that everything has to be cost-effective, and so unless we can provide something that outweighs the cost of rescue, we are stuck. Our resource director has chopped up what we need into quotas, and every day we must rely on you and your pickaxe to collect enough diamonds to satisfy it. As terrible as the circumstances are, it seems we must play the hand we are dealt. This is why I have negotiated hazard pay for all prisoners. On top of the 2% you already gain, any gold you find in that mine is yours. You can have all of it, but make no mistake. Every single diamond gain is one step closer to safety for everyone in this prison. And we are all victims of corporate ideology today. Anyone who is slacking on the diamond mining is possibly delaying our rescue and putting lives in jeopardy. Speaking of jeopardizing lives, many concerning reports have reached me regarding the actions of many of the prisoners. These actions are for the most part understandable, but any riots or rebellions remove your protection against the zombies, and I guarantee it could very well lead to every single person in this facility getting infected. I hope with this added context you see the necessity of our task and the need to work together. The guards cannot be rescued without the prisoners, and the prisoners cannot be defended without the guards. Keep this dynamic, stay on task, and we stand the best chance of making it through this horrific ordeal.
As the next day neared, I took inventory. Gladiator already had a sizable Discord server and had organized it into a place where the guards could centralize their communication. Gladiator had the equipment and means to girl boss himself into becoming a chief guard, which, by the rules of chaos, means he was now a chief guard under Duffson. Lists of potentially harmful individuals and internal structure were being formed, however the guards weren't the only ones getting themselves prepared. One of the biggest pre-made groups was the Anarchist Revolution, led by Deadline Green. As you can imagine, people who intend to be ungovernable and a prison go together, as well as an internet connection and a congressman, so the prison council reached out to them first and managed to cool their jets for the moment. They were a powder keg and needed to be negotiated with if we wanted to avoid violence. I could only hope that my efforts bore fruit as we continued into Day 2 proper. With all the tech issues smoothed out, things went way better. However, C-Block was experiencing a similar malfunction. Apparently, all the doors there weren't connected to the power, and the Anarchist Revolution had taken root there. Unfortunately for all of us, an even bigger threat was just brewing outside our walls. And to make matters worse, just a few minutes into the first wave, we saw our first truly bad human rights violations. Prisoners were being ripped from their cells, dragged to the gate, and being put there as zombie bait on Duffson's orders. Phrases like, "I don't care if you die," were being thrown around by the guards too, making the prisoners panic. Like, really panic. Seriously, it was some impressive, gut-wrenching screaming that OBS's continued betrayal has spared your ears from. In a show of protest, I took the place of one of the prisoners, but I couldn't override another director's commands without the warden's approval, and to be frank, security matters were out of my jurisdiction. I would have to bring this up at the meeting later. After the sun rose, it was time to get the prisoners out of their cells and into the mines so that our diamond quota could be met. Nothing prepared me for how the mines turned out. I tried to curb a food shortage with what little I had on hand, cookies, before delving into the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. It was far from safe for me, with prisoners both having access to crafting tables and diamonds, which was our worst fear going forward, but prisoners beginning to craft their own iron armor and blend in with the guards. Combined with lava buckets and general chaos, I'm surprised I didn't feel the need to equip my armor. There was a major upside, however. It seemed most of the prisoners were entirely understanding of why the diamonds needed to be mined, and some were so dedicated they went through 7 pickaxes in the pursuit of safety. Along with Everil, my bodyguard of the day, we kept morale as high as we could and negotiated contraband out instead of just arresting people left and right, which is something I found the prisoners appreciating. Upon coming out, however, I happened upon Deadline Green taking a casual stroll in diamond armor. He was cuffed and dragged off so that I could talk to him, and hilariously enough, he began panicking and throwing his armor everywhere. After having a lengthy conversation, I concluded that while Deadline's defense of "it was a dare, bro" was total tripe, it was also a case in which I had alternative ways of dealing with the problem than simply arresting him then and there. I let him go, but not for long. Due to the amount of prisoners using a disguise kit, there was a server-wide search conducted, and while I assisted a bit, the details are so long and boring that I won't regale you with them. All you need to know is that everyone in the security department was up in arms, and I just had to trust that they would handle it before the prisoners gained enough manpower and equipment to just take over the prison. Something interesting did occur, however. Introducing Drawconleaf, the guard impersonator I was now alone with on the roof. Apparently, he wanted in, to work with me as a snitch, and me in particular. He seemed well enough intentioned, but this avenue was only going to get him killed. Luckily for my safety and his, I managed to convince him to hand over his disguise, and in return I cleared his name with the gate guards. Little did I know this wasn't the last time I'd see Drawcon. Now it was time. I called Deadline up to my office. Mr. Green was having a lot of flashbacks to the Titanic event, which had caused a lot of threats against Carlcrafts. So to put him at ease, I gave him a bit of tea and sat him down only for Duffson, who was attempting to sleep next door, to barge in and threaten to turn me into a rhino again if I didn't keep it down. Duffson may not have had the authority to do that, but the point was extremely compelling, so we decided to move across the way and leave. This had the advantage of putting Deadline in direct contact with unknown Ethereal, the resource director. As I'll explain in a bit, Ethereal was far more than a simple resource director, a fact Deadline knew all too well. Let's just say right now that seeing Ethereal as one of the directors of the prison was a massive incentive not to commit to the two-step method. I would provide even more incentive. You see, Deadline didn't know it at the time, but he and I shared a lot in common. I handed Deadline a top-secret document and dipped his hand into the dark underbelly of the prison. The document detailed a trial phase of the Epsilon Project, which for a lack of a better term was a respawn machine. The same machine that had brought me back after I'd been stabbed by Golden Knight last event. However, Deadline was different because, well...
What is wrong with the respawn machine?
It doesn't always work like it's supposed to. Some get stuck inside trying to come through.
Deadline was the ultimate example of this preliminary issue. The book detailed his first life having his brain stuffed in a jar and going mad along with other similarly immoral things. This bootleg immortality had taken its toll, and Deadline deserved to know. With that understanding reached, I made Deadline an offer. If he joined in on a personal project of mine, his misdeeds would be overlooked for the time being. All he asked was that I protected those he had come to know as his family, and since I was already planning on saving as many people as I could, I found no reason not to accept those terms. This personal project of mine was a setup for a plan B, in case, for whatever reason, the prison became uninhabitable. However, we'll have to go over the details of that another time, because at the last minute, Carl Crafts broached the suggestion that we should leverage the food shortage the prisoners were experiencing to incentivize gladiatorial combat between the cell blocks. Yeah, he just said it to the entire server at the end of the day. And with that, day 2 closed, and things began to spiral. The problem was that Carl Crafts wasn't just a warden, he was the CEO of Visionary Holdings, the very same megacorporation that owned the facility. There was no boss to report him to, and his word was law. Or at least, that's how I thought it was at the time. Our silver lining was that Visionary Holdings was in an intense legal battle with Ghost Star Lines over what happened with the Titanic. 2 of the 4 directors, Unknown Ethereal and its ghost the Perimeter Director, were planted there to ensure Carl Crafts didn't do anything suboptimal. Lo and behold, getting prisoners killed in death games is suboptimal, and considering Carl Crafts' track record, one that literally got him arrested by the now deceased CEO of Ghost Star Lines, Ish.
Carl,
What?
explain yourself.
Look,
What is
look,
this?
look,
Some
look.
sort of bridge? This
It's-
looks like a death trap. Listen, my name is Ish, and I am the head of security here at Ghost Star Lines. And under my authority, I am removing Carl Crafts from
Wait.
this facility. Immediately. I will.
This plan of his was causing Ethereal to begin a plot of his own. My headcanon is that Carl ordered Ish killed due to his arrest, by the way. I'm still not sure, though. I wrote a lengthy argument as to why making the prisoners fight each other was a terrible idea, and it fell on deaf ears. So I had to ask myself, how do I circumvent my boss's orders without disobeying him? The answer was to open a maid cafe. I just left all the food I knew we had in storage to the maid gang. Problem solved. This is stupid. And as much as Carl liked death games, he liked maids even more, so I didn't get in trouble. I did say that things were spiraling, however, so here's a rapid-fire rundown of the situation. Due to poor storage management, 40% of the diamond quota had been nicked by a player named Hound, who we all knew about and had been on a watch list since before even the event started. A group of escapees had formed under a player named Wolfabet and named themselves the Railway Gang, taking up residence in the train tunnel. Gladiator had amassed a fair following but was exceptionally concerned about Deadline Green's behavior, but because he wasn't at the top, he knew very little about the actual punishment we were handing down. Gladiator was so convinced Deadline was a threat that he broached execution, but the idea was quickly shot down, and he was informed that Deadline was doing a bit of community service and that he was a non-threat. Duffson, who I thought was going to be one of my biggest obstacles to keeping people safe, disappeared for the rest of the event like a ghost. I miss you. And the word on the block was that the zombies were evolving. I'll let the news cover the rest.
Ahem. We have some things to talk about. Here is footage of the zombie attack last night. This is not your ordinary zombie. Ordinary zombies are slow, only moderately harmful, and most importantly, stay stagnant. At first glance, these zombies don't seem much different, but we have rather alarming reports of evolution. Since the train incident, it seems the zombies have learned to climb walls. When I arrived on scene, live bait was being deployed down at the base of the walls to prevent the zombies from pathing upwards. Allegedly, the zombies have also learned to break blocks with the strange exception of iron bars. We'll be looking to other iron materials soon. The point is, these zombies are evolving. Increases in speed, intelligence, strength, none of it is outside the realm of possibility. And if they've learned to break blocks, it makes one wonder what other special abilities a zombie could achieve. Will there be zombies building a dirt hut soon? Or pillaring their horde over the walls? Speculation at this point, but the threat remains. Need I remind you all that even one hit from these zombies could instantly kill you regardless of your gear. That's a 30 to 40% infection rate that could have increased by now, and we'd have no idea. Luckily, this wave is still small, at only around 100 zombies spread out over time, and the perimeter guard was well equipped and coordinated enough to make short work of the threat. But it's only going to get worse from here. Now that our looming threat has been a bit more defined, some of you may be wondering how the quota is doing. As troublesome as it may be, the quota is our only way to escape. Well, I'm happy to announce that today in the mines you all did an admirable job. I had to consistently replace pickaxes because you were all mining so hard, and despite a few hiccups around some lava, I saw an amazing drive to get out of this accursed place. It was looking so great that some of the guards had even come to relax and trust the process. A little too relaxed. Lo and behold, all the diamonds turned up missing, and I got reports of some guards having to bury collection barrels in diorite just to prevent the inmates from getting them. Before the investigation could even begin, a player named Hound claimed that his gang had stolen 70 stacks of diamonds, and despite my outstretched hand, promising him he'd be fine as long as he handed the quota over, he has made it very clear that he is not going to be handing them back and declared he was going to start up a black market using them. Straight to my face, in front of dozens of Discord users who are also guards. Usually it is my place to simply inform you all what is happening, but I'm the Wellbeing Director. I was put here for a reason. I must say, never in all of my years have I seen such a brazen disregard for human life, and for his own gain no less. The math has been done. We should have blown the quota out of the water, but we are short now because of this man's incredibly foolish greed. My offer stands and is extended to anyone who may have diamonds on their person. We all rely on those diamonds. Just hand them in and you'll be fine. I understand the stressful situation, and who knows? If I were in the same position, perhaps I would have done the same thing. But to ensure all our safety, we need to return those diamonds and get those barrels filled. To make sure you'll be fine, I've had a talk with the guards in their Discord server. I'm getting far too many reports of unproportional punishment and abuse. Some of these cases are confirmed to be slander, but some are very much not. Here at Visionary Holdings, it is expected of them to be behaving in a manner for a prison guard, not in a manner fit for the Stanford prison experiment. We're all in this boat together. Don't go poking holes in it, and consider that a standing order. You both don't have to like each other, but it is my hope that you all learn to work together, you know? Because if you don't, you all die. Isn't that just peachy? Speaking of cooperation, there have been far too many rumors about escape, and worse, an oncoming riot. Now, if you really want to escape, and you manage to do so, I am wishing you the best of luck. For most of you, the prison doors will still be open for rescue from the zombie horde. However, an internal conflict doesn't risk one life. It risks every life. Let's put this into perspective. Rioters cannot open doors, fight against cuffs, and our Director of Internal Security has already survived a 1v10 after killing 12 people last event. Stolen diamond equipment or not, those are terrible odds. And there are further security measures I'm not going to list here. But let's say you do succeed. What then? Do you have a plan for the zombie horde? What about the people who didn't want to carve a bloody path through the prison? If you plan to defend the prison, will you even have enough people after that? Especially with the zombies getting more powerful. You won't have an escape through corporate at that point, I can tell you that. I say that many people in this facility are far too quick to resort to violence. Let's not start a riot, let's start a correspondence. Meet with me. I am more than happy to answer any and all questions and address any concerns. Things are tough, and if we don't communicate, misunderstandings will happen. Stay your blades. One could say, however, that a lack of understanding is our biggest pitfall. Many people from both sides approached me with this, and I agree, which is why I've decided that the zombie threat must be studied and the landscape must be mapped. I'm putting together a team of inmates and guards to ride out and do everything they can to give us an advanced warning of outside threats and help ensure we are all up to date on the zombie situation. This may be our only chance before the threat is too massive to even exit the walls, and 7 individuals have taken up the mantle to help protect everybody. This joint effort warms my heart, and I'm equipping them with everything I have to ensure they come back safely. They'll be heading out in the last hour of the day, if things go to plan, so give them a warm send-off. Such bravery deserves it. And on the note of deserving things, I've been speaking to corporate. The cold steel cogs refuse to budge on many things. However, I've found a legal workaround to reclassify every prisoner in the facility. Frankly, many of you are staying here willingly, and exiting the complex doesn't bode well for anyone. Additionally, you've been a great help and hard at work ensuring we can get out of here in one piece. From now on, all prisoners will be referred to as workers, and should a guard want, the term guest is allowed as well. Despite having no tangible or immediate effect, I hope the reclassification helps motivate you all. There isn't a future for any of us without you, and I appreciate your hard work. I should level. I despise using the Citizen's Herald like this. Too much director says this, director says that. Not like the good old days with the morning report. Simpler times, those were. Easier decisions, too. But fortunately, 2 other news organizations have popped up in the midst of this crisis independently of myself and the directors. It's great to see that journalism once again steps up to the challenge, and I can attest to the quality of both papers. Links to both their Discord servers will be down in the Small Stories tab, as I find myself with no time to print paper publications like theirs. Go show them some support. In brighter news, the prison is taking a few things out of storage and committing to some remodeling. I've heard about the gladiatorial arena idea being floated around up here, and while I don't support it, such a preposterous thing did highlight a need for food. I have restocked the cafeteria and put the maids in charge of distributing food to everybody. Do be patient with them, as they are doing their utmost to get the food to you as soon as they can. Oh, and they've been given jurisdiction over the kitchen. Don't barge into the restricted areas like last time, or you might find yourself beset upon by the help. And speaking of which, I'll be there personally to attend to all the gang leaders who want to talk things out. I'll likely be over in the aquarium room, nice and out of the way. That would be the best time. To close things off, I've hired a weatherman just to give you all that sense of familiarity. Salvesi, what is the weather for today?
The gods will weep. Our sins will not be washed. Also, the Mets will win the Super Bowl. Back to you, Rose.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to...
Right. Please forgive me. I lost a bet. For now, that will be all. See you on the ground, and stay safe.
Never enter into a drinking game with an eldritch entity. It does not end well. With all our plans set in stone, it was time for day 3. Now, day 3 was a huge mess, so I'm going to go over all the calmer things that happened first. I had successfully circumvented Concrafts and managed to negotiate some downtime for the prisoners. Everyone would be free to roam the blocks, maid cafe, library, and courtyard until the warden decided it was time to move on. I sent out Wolf Buttercup and Kittrix, gods who had gauged were good people, to collect the barrels of quota left at the mine. The operation was a success, and we managed to get back most of the quota. Both Kittrix and Wolf quickly became my go-to if I needed something done and done right. Hound was apprehended, and Ethereal had a talk that pacified him and his stolen goods pretty quickly. While a zombie wave was going on, I decided to hand out clocks to a bunch of prisoners, knowing it would at least somewhat help them stay sane in the cells they were cooped up in. I also managed to meet with gang representatives to hear them out on several matters of worker rights, most of which I was already attempting to accommodate or were too far outside the realm of possibility to consider. However, an increase of wages to 20% of the total diamonds was floated, and the idea stuck with me. It's not like we had the luxury of time, and anyone who was willing to stick with us through all this deserved more than just a little hazard pay. It seemed the conversation lightened the moods of everyone there, as none of them wanted violence. Unfortunately for all of us, violence wasn't something that would stay away. The first of 3 really big things that happened was this.
Deadline. You can tell.
I need people to.
Deadline. You can tell us what you know before things happen, alright? Like, please let us. Come on.
You should leave.
What the fuck do you
You
want
should
to
just
know?
leave for your own good.
Yeah,
Mr. Gladiator had decided to ignore the council entirely and order Deadline's execution himself, an order that Golden Knight followed. This immediately lit several fires. Calls for justice and revenge poured from the anarchists and caused a small riot I had to help quell in the cafeteria. Without a leader, they were simply running amok through the prison, the saving grace being their comparatively low numbers. Word still spread quickly. If the gangs of the prison hadn't been disillusioned with the gods by then, they were now, and the dial had been switched from possibly saving the situation to knowing for a fact that plans of mass escape and rebellion were being made in the shadows. When I eventually found out what happened, I called Gladiator into my office to go over it all. He was very dismissive of the situation and even expressed surprise when I told him all executions needed to be run by the council. I seriously wish I still had the recording of this conversation because it was a piss-off-your-bus any percent speedrun, spurred on by a lack of remorse and disregard for the council's authority. In fact, I viewed this as a lead-up to a power grab, the perception of which was not helped by the fact that Gladiator had literally given himself a crown. At best, he was a vigilante that had bypassed the chain of command to commit preemptive murder against a perceived threat, and at worst, he was attempting to gain enough influence to try and take over the prison. I could allow neither, but I did not show my hand. With Duffson missing, Gladiator still filled his role, and despite Deadline's death, he was still a lot less sadistic than Duffson was, so I wasn't going to fire him then. And besides, he had one defense that was fishy and unconfirmable. He claimed its ghost had been in on the execution. It was fishy because I had a back channel to Ghost and he was both aware of Deadline and had expressed no intention of committing to an execution, and unconfirmable because by the time this meeting took place, Ghost was dead. Yes, the next big thing was the death of a director. Ghost was leading an outside force to the mines when his own guards, long-standing members of the elite team, assassinated him with the help of members from the railway gang. People were obviously shocked that a director had died, as most thought we had plot armor, but here we were. The railway gang had struck, and had become the third big issue. You see, these people were,
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Under the impression they were playing a different event, and had evidently not gotten the memo. Indeed, they were murder hobos. People who didn't roleplay, let alone even talk, and murdered every guard they could get their hands on. A lot of people were resurrected due to the random murder, and I almost became one of them. During our daily outing to the mines, I accidentally ended up directing security more than checking on the workers due to the murder spree that was occurring. While in transition between locations, there was a moment where I wasn't surrounded by any guards, and a Wolfbet, the primary serial killer, took his opportunity to cuff me and drag me off, eventually handing me over to Feebaz. For anyone who doesn't know how the cuffs work, you pretty much just click on a person and they're stuck being dragged along. I was pretty chill about it because by this point I viewed my life as entirely expendable and, due to the Epsilon project, replaceable. However, Drawcon Leave had a different idea of how things should go. Apparently, Drawcon had escaped the prison and geared himself, but was entirely disagreeing with the railway gang's methods. He cuffed Feebaz and freed me, allowing me to just casually walk away from the situation, a gesture I would not forget. And with that, day 3 ended, and now we get to talk about the body pillow in the room. Yeah, there's a particular group of people who are very excited about this part of the video. So, throughout this event, the prisoners had been confined to cells, used as zombie bait, discarded at a whim, abused by power-mad guards, and even suggested as death game entertainment. It was no surprise to me when I heard they were planning a riot, but it was a surprise to hear that while pretty much everyone else was on the chopping block, they had no interest in killing me. Apparently, when a crisis occurs, people latch on to the person who shows genuine compassion towards the less fortunate, and treats them with common decency. Who knew? And when I say latch onto, I mean latch onto. People were coming up to me in the mines like I was some kind of celebrity, excited to have finally met me and so forth. And that's just the general worker. Look at this guy trying to make a religion out of me, something I very much did not want.
I'm not the Messiah. Will you please listen? I am not the Messiah. Do you understand? Honestly.
Only the true Messiah denies his divinity.
What? Well, what sort of chance does that give me? All right, I am the Messiah. He is the Messiah.
And it went even further. Wolf Buttercup, who had been at my side for a good while by this point, was so on board with my mission that she opened a block bench and made this. She turned me into a marketable plushie. And I thought that would be the worst of it, but after day 4, this dropped.
Oh, hell no! Oh, no!
Lexi, Lexi degenerating out body pillows aside, I did my best not to let this new cult of personality distract me from my mission to save as many as possible, especially since their perception of me wasn't entirely accurate. You see, wall alignment charts cannot encompass all of a character's intricacies most of the time. Most believed I fell solidly in lawful good. However, that wasn't quite the case. Unknown Ethereal, while not at the forefront of the prison, had been scheming in the background, and those were schemes I was was well aware of. He already had a guard by the name of Raz Cherry feeding him information on Gladiator and, eventually, deciding to use her in the chief's upcoming assassination. Additionally, if that failed, he had conscripted the maids into being contracted hitwomen, ones who would deal with people who got too ambitious or too close to the truths hidden beneath the prison. As long as their maids remained this, and not this,
that's immoral. War crime this, code of conduct that. War is just part of who we are. Why fight it? What the fuck?
I would ignore it. Said labs were all his jurisdiction, and the less I knew about them, the better I could do my job. You see, despite having drastically different methods, me and Ethereal had an agreement of ideology. We would dedicate our lives to building a utopia, and if you know anything about world leaders, you know that no one can be good all the time. Sacrifices would be made and bodies would be buried when necessary. Ethereal knew what had to be done, and I could temper him when needed. Together we were working to achieve this goal, and so I trusted that Ethereal wasn't working outside the bounds of our dream. That's why when the T-plan was floated, I backed it. You see, the Warden had become aware that some of the workers didn't accept the zombies as that big a threat, and escape attempts were abound. The T-plan was to show that the guards and council were the barrier between the workers and the zombies by, well, leaving the front door open at night and doing nothing to stop the oncoming horde. It was drastic, but all avenues of bloodless negotiation had been severed, and now people were willingly throwing themselves into the horde to escape. Something had to be done, and while the motivation for doing this might have been comedic evil entertainment, my colleagues were still correct. The workers weren't scared enough. And so, with the promise that none would die, we began day 4 by cracking open the luxuries, sitting back, playing some classical music, and doing absolutely nothing.
Yes, every guard, you can go to the barracks for a little R&R.
Everybody, are you ready?
Oh yes, we are quite ready. Thanks to all of the prisoners being so kind to tell us about the issues that are going on within this facility, and the fact that you feel us, council and the guards, are oppressive, today the prison will be yours. Do whatever you wish, and the council and the prison guards will take a little bit of a rest. Enjoy your free time.
Let me play some music.
Yes, let's play some music.
Hey, regards, this is the chief. Unless you're a member of the elite team, you should be in the barracks as instructed by the warden.
Oh, break that.
Rose, are you alright?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, no, it's something. I'm just enjoying the tea over here and with my buds. It's a thing.
Oh, you want guards to come back? They're begging for it. That's adorable.
It feels almost like they're maybe a little bit grateful for the protection we've been providing to them all this time. All it took is maybe just slaughtering a few of them, letting the dangers from outside in. Maybe they might stop rioting. Maybe they might stop planning to escape, knowing what's out there for them. It's nothing but certain death.
I had a guarantee that no one would die during that ordeal while the point was made, and it looks like they followed through on that, so... Thank goodness! That was probably one of the most stressful tea breaks I've ever taken. Do you want some luxury honey?
Extreme stress aside, and a point made, it was time to continue our regularly scheduled mining session. Carlcrafts had some good news for us all as well. Allegedly, Corporate was finally dispatching its rescue and a convoy was heading to our location. I say allegedly because, well, there was no road to the prison. It was literally unreachable by convoy. Regardless, the workers were going to split into 2 groups. One would go for the diamonds, and the others would construct a parking lot for the convoy to stage. However, right before we exited the prison for that, both me and the warden decided a bit of recreational time was in order to calm the workers' undoubtedly traumatized nerves. Because I was receiving reports of people eating the plushies, of which were reskinned spider eyes, I made this announcement.
By the way, do not eat any of the rose plushies. They are not made out of consumable materials. There is a tag on the back that specifically says, no one over 3. But please do not eat them. Do not eat them, please.
And then I was called into a meeting with Ethereal, a meeting where he would shed light on our predicament.
Crow's infection is getting worse.
Crow's infected?
You remember the azure leaves of the Tree of Life the Diners had COVID?
I do, yes.
And we made potions from it, thinking its effects would be superhuman.
I remember advocating for that, yes.
There were side effects.
Hold on a moment. If this is a zombie infection and you are...
No, it's worse.
It's worse.
Zombies are the first stage, and you know that they are mutating. They are done by the Project Epsilon Laboratories. Do you know what's their final stage?
No, I don't.
They become the amorphous mass and are known as a biological grey goo scenario.
Grey goo?
Yes. Do you know something called the grave mine?
Yes.
That is what Crow is infected with.
Great. Okay.
I have a project going to fix it, but the gems are imperative. If you do not get them, it will break out.
I will go collect Anda immediately.
Her DNA might be a key to this.
It turned out that all the way back in Lion King, the Ethereal Star Syndicate had taken a portion of the Tree of Life for clinical trials, convinced that its incredible adaptability would lead to highly advanced medical drugs. They were correct. Cures for everything, even cancer, came from this research, but the cost was grave. As much as the Tree of Life gave, it took, and soon the island the prison was built upon was overrun with a rogue undead mutant strain of the tree. I would come to find that Ethereal had been attempting to cure this problem for the better part of 2 decades because, surprise, this...
11! Actually, you know what? It's a homer. Abort! Abort 11! Don't waste a bullet.
Turning into this...
The prophets have promised you freedom from a doomed existence, but you will find no salvation on this ring.
Was a really bad prospect. As it turned out, Crow was infected, a fact which I quickly confirmed.
Well, it must admit.
We're working to fix it, alright?
I know.
And with Chaotic Ander's arrival, Crow had a chance to be cured since both shared hyena DNA. I went to get Ander immediately and ran right into the middle of what was probably a maid assassination.
Yes. I need you guys to detain him, not kill. Not kill.
My jumping in turned out to be fruitless, however, as Cool Guy had overheard some of Ethereal's conversations. As much as I wished it were not so, I would have to leave Cool Guy to his fate. Speaking of fates, the warden was committing crimes.
I definitely didn't kill a prisoner. It was natural causes. They tripped on a rock.
Natural cause of a knife in his throat, yeah.
Yeah, they tripped on a rock and stabbed themselves 36 times.
Chaotic Ander had just undergone the loss of their brother, and now Ethereal was asking them to take part in his cure research as a willing volunteer. I was under the impression such research could only lead to the torment and possibly death of any test subjects, so I made absolutely sure Chaotic Ander had not been coerced in any way and was indeed a volunteer. They were. And now, because of that, we had a legitimate foothold in beginning to fight back against the plague outside. The best I could do was wish Ander luck, as they were now consigned to the restricted sections of the prison, sections I was green in the gills about visiting. Ander would see their brother, and we would be one step closer to our cure. That wasn't the only story of self-sacrifice going on either. Having recovered from delays incurred on day 3, the first survey expedition was finally ready to begin. It was a joint effort between the prisoners and the guards, led by Kittrix and Wolf Buttercup. It was also supported by Lexi Zargon, who had founded the Covert Cure Collective and aimed to study the infected horde. Silvessi was also there because, well, by this point he had released the Necronomicon into the facility, and I needed to get him out of the house for a while for my own sanity. We did try to abuse his eldritch nature for some research materials.
Can you summon God really quick?
But unfortunately, it was the Sabbath. Along with its STG and Wolf of the Zay, they left the safety of the walls with the goal of surveying the land for any advantages, threats, and possibly negotiation with outsiders, if it was at all safe to do so. I could only hope they came back alive. After they were away, I ran over to the surprisingly on-fire forest to officiate a marriage. You see, a guard by the name of Kodabra and a prisoner named Mushi Frog had been in a forbidden Romeo and Juliet romance this entire event, and both of them had begged me to arrange an official wedding. I had been told multiple times that worker and guard relationships were a no-go, so I made the executive decision to not give a shit. In the most chaotic slap-together wedding possible, they were married, and we all shared one last happy moment before Carl called us all to the front of the prison. He announced that the convoy had been overrun by zombies, a convenient excuse for a rescue that couldn't possibly have existed. But right as the server shut down for the day, he promised to take us all to the curtain room because we had earned our reward. Okay. We had a week of prep time for day 5, and so much happened. News first.
This is why you're all in prison. As much as I want to say that you're all killing me faster than the zombies, that isn't true. The real culprit is my colleagues, and no other operation embodies this better than what is referred to as the T-Plan. Our warden decided that workers, I repeat, workers, didn't have much appreciation for the guards who were giving their lives in defense of the prison, so he decided to leave it all undefended for a night and left the door open. While there were a few zombies that milled around the blocks, not much of a threat came from the night, and I take responsibility for that. I requested reassurances people wouldn't die orchestrating such a dangerous plan, and got them. So if you didn't feel threatened, you're welcome, I suppose. However, as a result, I can safely say that the extent of the zombie threat hasn't been adequately conveyed in its traditional manner, so come day 5, I'll be working on fixing that. No, not with a T-Plan, I can't comment. Thankfully, the days progressed as planned afterwards, sort of. The path to the mines has been beset upon by the railway gang, or as I like to call them, the murder hobos. At least a dozen guards have been killed due to their actions, and as far as I can tell, that's their only goal. Even when I was temporarily kidnapped due to their efforts, I received no attempt at negotiation. I pride myself on coming to the table first, but I do not believe the murder hobos are willing to talk, thus the designation. If for whatever reason you find yourself outside the walls, be very careful. Not all outsiders have been so deserving of ire, however. I have sent the first expedition out to survey the area, identify zombie threats, and contact other groups of people who have managed to survive out there. Apparently, there's a settlement of moss people out there with a very small encampment of warship. Sam, it's good to see you. I'm glad you survived the Pride Lands, and I hope you intend to be peaceful with my expedition. Oh, and Drakenleaf, thank you for saving my life. Alarming reports of quota theft have unfortunately popped up again. 40%, which is a little over a day and a half, has disappeared from our quota room. In other unrelated news, the guards have found themselves diamond armor. Cogcrafts announced the corporate convoy sent to rescue us was chewed up by zombies, rendering the parking lot we built useless. They've decided to evacuate us via air, so unless the zombies evolve to fly, they'll make it this time. I would like to point out that it would have been really awkward if the convoy had shown up and 40% of the quota was gone. Of course, it's even more awkward that the convoy died, but still. I've also received reports that are entirely unrelated to the quota incident about guards taking justice into their own hands. Many are up in arms about the death of Deadline Green, and rightfully so. The morning of day 3, he was dragged into solitary confinement for his own protection. However, one of the guards on station ordered Deadline killed without consulting the council. I will now remind all guards that an execution without cause or due process is called murder. There is no room for vigilantes in this prison, especially not among the ranks of those in power. The planned riot I keep hearing about is a direct result of this misconduct, among other things, and to top it all off, the new leader of the anarchists is running around with the Necronomicon. Yes, the Book of Ultimate Evil. It's considered a weapon of prison destruction, and I'm willing to let Willix go if he just hands it over so I can burn it. Speaking of that riot, I'm cooking up a plan that will simmer you all down and address why this riot is being planned in the first place. Things are going to change very fast at the start of Day 5, and I hope you're all ready for it. Indeed, the issue is short today because I can't talk about it, but that's being a director for you. Something I can talk about, however, is the rumors going around about the lab tests. The bulk of our underground facilities have finally been purged of the zombie threat. That was a thing, by the way, and now we have the laboratories to conduct cure research. I can at least assure you all that the unethical experiments you're all referring to didn't come from there, however, as at the moment we only have one person who has bravely volunteered for the project. The Epsilon Project, however, is a book that made its way into worker hands after Deadline's death, and it contains reference to many questionable practices. I'll be addressing this in event after things have settled a bit. Short one today, but that's life. Citizens Herald, out.
Why was I so certain that things would move fast? Why could I not talk about things? Well, myself and Ethereal had hit our breaking point with Carlcrafts. The Warden's mismanagement and blatant disregard for human life was putting everyone in jeopardy, and if we wanted to stand any chance of getting rescued, he had to go. We knew what was behind that curtain, and if he was really trying to fall back into that old habit, there was no doubt in our minds about removing him from office. In fact, it was such an obvious route that our conversation with Lights went something like this. So, we kill Carl, I take his place, you take the labs, and we get this done. Sound good?
That sounds perfect.
Hey, you guys want to kill Carl?
Yes!
Excellent. Let's do it.
Unfortunately, we weren't the only ones with such plans. Gladiator slipped into my DMs with the suggestion that there should be a change in management. However, his concern wasn't Carlcrafts, it was Ethereal. Gladiator had made the observation that Carlcrafts was taking orders from Ethereal and feared the Warden was his puppet. He suggested we'd rope Carlcrafts into a plan to put checks on Ethereal by ascending Gladiator to a council position. He appealed to my morality, saying that I shouldn't accept an egotistical maniac taking godlike control of the prison, and further saying that heads would roll under Ethereal's rule. Little did Gladiator know that his would roll under mine. I gave him a maybe, and left it at that, turning directly to our resident frilly assassins. Ethereal was so important for both personal and factual reasons that if the entire prison stood up and called for his head, I would stand in the way. It wasn't just an agreement of ideology or a mission, it was the fact that after escaping the prison, it was highly likely that we would be going to the city of Avalon where Ethereal is Crown Emperor. Anyone who tried to or succeeded in killing Ethereal would find no future waiting for them on the mainland, and depending on the circumstances of his death, this could include every worker in the prison. Additionally, he was our best shot at getting a cure and the only person who could operate the labs to their fullest extent. And even then, it might not matter, because Ghost Starlines could just decide not to rescue anyone if Ethereal kicked it. It was a matter of loyalty and lifeline all wrapped into one, and I would be damned if I let Gladiator, a man who would return to torment me yet again with what I saw as only a power grab, doom us all. Speaking of those labs, here they were in all their glory. Welcome to Project Epsilon, the home of bootleg immortality. We've got stasis chambers, cure research, and something that will look familiar to some of you. My original body from The Lion King was here too, along with documentation on the recovery process. As you can see here, my brain did not have a skill issue. This was where everyone could be saved, but above ground the story wasn't unfolding in our favor. The many worker groups had come together to discuss the issues in the prison and decided that not only was a riot to happen, but a riot was to happen on Day 5 after a code word spoken by a player named Race Champ. Sources told me they were proceeding with the plan to violently take over the prison, yet apparently many of the workers had decided that I deserved to be spared, which was interesting. Needless to say, I wasn't going to let any of that happen. With the goal of preventing our complete and total destruction, I entered into Day 5.
I wanted to say a quick thank you all for working so hard out there. It's because of you, because of all of you, that we get to make so much progress. We have air support coming. We're gonna need more diamonds for it to be cost effective and worthwhile though. We don't have much more to get done before we are all out of here. But as a reward for your amazing work, why don't I reveal to you what is behind the curtain as a reward for all your work? What do you reckon, huh? Let's see what's behind the curtain reveal. Let's go. Legends never die. Oh, I'm in the broadcast channel. Whoops. Are you all ready for the big reveal of what is behind the curtain? Gods, reveal my game. I see some prisoners trying to leave. No. Back to the game we go. I want you all to know that this game is safe, and you will be just fine. Enough! Cereal? What do you mean enough?
Carl. Oh, Carl. Did you really think this is what I meant? This is what I wanted? I'm going to give you a book about your lovely promotion that you've been begging me for. Here you go, Carl. Enjoy.
You have unfortunately disappointed me. Prison is not under control. You shall be recycled?
Carl was now dead, but he had left one last surprise. Before he died, he put the entire prison on countdown to the removal of all restrictions, meaning that workers would be able to break blocks and thus do literally anything they wanted. I needed to give a speech that would convince an entire downtrodden prison that banding together for survival was a preferable alternative to killing each other, and I did. In fact, it was a decent speech, but I was nervous and pressed for time by Carl's imposed circumstance. I have taken the liberty of giving you the full speech here. It was me. I couldn't take it anymore. I want us all to get out of here in one piece, and the way things were going, sooner or later we would have all ceased to exist. So, I have taken it upon myself to be your new warden. Now, let's all work to get out of here, but in order to do that, we must stay united and treat this place with due respect. It is a prison, after all, but I can promise you one thing. I will do everything in my power to get you all out of here alive. Being a director for this prison has brought me nothing but pain. Between the many prison factions and the corruption, I've had to pick between two terrible decisions more times than I can count. I am done with it, and I am seizing control of this facility and all of Visionary Holdings' assets. Let me be clear, I am not a warden, not necessarily. I am here by necessity, and I despise this position, but there are things that must be done. My first act will be to lessen the divide between worker and guard. Those of you who are in this room, who have stuck with us despite the tyranny, know what has to be done for everyone's survival. The prison is already a death trap, as clearly demonstrated by this glass bridge. I see no reason to hold you in your cramped cells. The courtyard, prison blocks, and non-staff sections of the cafeteria will be freely open to you, and we will not be holding anyone other than dissidents in cells come nightfall. The people we are stuck in here with are those we must rely on. If you have misgivings, bury them. If you have lost hope, steel yourself. We are on the front lines of the apocalypse, and we will not succumb to greed, bloodlust, and ambition when such things will only serve to destroy us. We are not the people in the train tunnels who judge a man's worth by their kill count. We are the hopeful who looked to a better tomorrow. The cure will be researched, rescue will come. The prison will survive. From this point onwards, I saw no rest. It had barely been 4 minutes before I was up top getting everyone equipped for what was going to be the largest, most lethal zombie wave yet. That's when Domus 2 posited the question.
Is there a crafting table anywhere?
I'm over here.
Rose, can I get a pay increase?
I believe I can bring one.
I had already decided to arm the workers, but goodwill goes both ways. If I didn't go all the way, I would be showing the workers I didn't trust them. For the record, I didn't. But under my authority, I decided to remove the last restriction to freedom all the same. I was all in on the idea of working together, and now it was up to the rest of the prison to execute that idea. Rapid fire events go! I went to the library and reassured the workers about the outdated contents of the Epsilon project, ensuring they knew no one was being involuntarily experimented on. I made no attempt to prevent people from leaving. If they wanted to die out there, they were free to do so. Very few were eager to do so at this point anyways. Gladiator ceased his troublemaking and gave full support to my leadership, which was nice, and we'll come back to that at the end of all this. CCG Chris was promoted to acting Director of Wellbeing and told to enact Plan B if everything went south, which entailed running down the train tracks and hoping. Plan B wasn't fleshed out more because the expedition team had reported that, indeed, we were sitting in bumf nowhere with a damage barrier around the entire habitable area. Worst case for Plan B. This information was conveyed after the murder hobos slaughtered my Eldritch Weatherman and Wolf Buttercup too, so the outside was a no-go. Lexi Zargon had been recalled to help Ethereal down in the labs. She was discouraged from, quote, eating the zombies back. The prisoners seemed pretty happy with the changes, but a few were acting on old rivalries with the guards. One of those guards, Amspice Plays, gave a fairly reasonable excuse for why he had to kill a prisoner, and I told him and everyone else I could that cuffs still existed for a reason. Despite these tensions, both guards and prisoners fought side by side against the zombies crashing upon our walls. Throughout these first 20 minutes, I was constantly watching my back, so I welcomed a particularly reassuring moment. Race Champ, one of the workers who had helped organize the riots, wasn't exactly having the day he likely imagined. He had repeatedly given out the signal to riot, called for the downfall of the prison, and even called me a dictator before I had a chance to say anything, which pretty thoroughly cemented his intentions. Yet the incoming riot flopped on the floor like a wet sock, and barely anything violent ended up happening. There was even a moment near the library where he approached me, talking to someone in a Discord call.
If we can get you all equipped with diamond armor there, that would be wonderful.
Rose, is it the... Rose?
Yes.
Is plan... Yeah, I talked to Angel. Plan ready? We... You know.
Do what?
Is the plan ready? I spoke to Rose. Angel, rather.
I'm afraid I don't get your meaning. Maybe I'm forgetting something.
All I'm going to say, follow through on your promises.
I appreciate it.
If I had to guess, Race Champ was hearing something along the lines of, they don't want to riot anymore, we want to see what Rose does. So vague threats were all he could hint at. Unfortunately for Race, I liked accountability, so I was perfectly fine with this. Lo and behold, who did I meet on the roof during a lull in combat other than Race Champ? After telling me Amspice Plays was combat logging to get out of killing 4 prisoners, I condemned the guard and gave him every green light to dispose of him once he logged back on. However, Race then said something very interesting.
We have complete jurisdiction, by the way.
You serious?
He was serious, but I decided to just walk away. If he wanted to believe such a thing, he was free to do so, as everyone else was on the same page. I'm not sure what Race Champ's thought process was after this, but he ended up telling everyone I was chill and...
Rose, by the way, guys, for now, Rose is chill.
Let's shoot that
Rose
guy's
is always
horse.
been chill.
Rose is chill. We like Rose.
Yeah, Rose is chill.
You didn't know who you accepted into the event, huh?
Fortunately, his hubris suited me just fine. The first hurdle had officially been cleared. I had respect, admiration in some cases, and now I knew for a fact that my word held enough weight to keep the prison from falling apart. The prospect of attempted takeover was now low due to it being practically guaranteed that a sizable portion of the workers and all the guards would retaliate against that party, and I could focus on threats that were far less senseless. Speaking of zombies...
I think I speak for all of us when I say I understand why you folks might hesitate to submit to our demand. But here's an FYI, you're all gonna die screaming. All we wanna do is eat your brains. me, no one's gonna eat your eyes. All we wanna do is eat your brains. We're at an impasse here. Maybe we should compromise. If you open up
Deploying the elite team now.
What do you mean deploying? We're halfway through the wave.
When I say all units, that means all! Now move out, goddammit!
The undead made war buddies of us all that day. Infected people were even flinging themselves off the roof to protect everyone else. From that point onwards, I didn't hear about a single bit of violent infighting. The only PvP to be had was against the railway gang, who were attempting to encroach on the walls with their structures. And even then, it didn't devolve into anything truly bloody. This was probably helped by the fact that I was calling them out globally, along with alerting everyone about zombie positions. They broke through the walls, climbed upstairs, but in the end, we beat them back, with only around 5 to 10 casualties. Standing unified on top of that roof, we celebrated the resounding success.
Thank you all. We have managed to survive the night because of your generosity. Thank you so much. I'm going to go check. Indeed.
You'll notice, however, a distinct lack of block breaking. Checking down in the labs, Ethereal had pulled quite the maneuver, using Epsilon to bring a default template of Karlkrafts to life. You see, Karlkrafts was the only one who could impose or remove prison restrictions, so utilizing his ignorance of the situation and innocence of his existence, Ethereal managed to get the timer to Doomsday cancelled, and block breaking and placing remained unavailable to the workers. This undoubtedly saved us a lot of chaos, but granted us a rather hilarious side effect. When it was revealed to Carl that he had died and been brought back to life several times, he began to remember his past lives, the past Mind Planet events, and gained an immortality complex in the span of a few minutes. I didn't come into contact with him after our first meeting, but rest assured he used the fact that he was supposed to be dead to bamboozle everyone he met the entire day. 10 out of 10 would let Carl run amok again. The next obstacles would come rapidly. While answering questions and handing out orders, I was approached by Race Champ again, who said it was time for trials.
We're gonna hold those trials very, very, very soon.
Who?
Ethereal and Gladiator.
Gladiator, I think we can do. Ethereal is conducting vital research at the moment. I can't allow it.
Fine. We'll start with Gladiator for the time being, then we'll negotiate on Ethereal.
Let me go upstairs and figure out what the heck they're doing.
He does not survive.
I'm likely going to put this to a vote, so as long as you all have the upper vote, I don't think there's going to be much of an issue.
It was the perfect opportunity to set the entire prison against Gladiator. The head guard may have supported me, but I knew for a fact he didn't support Ethereal and had a history of taking justice into his own hands. Thusly, I threw him under the bus incredibly fast in the hopes of ensuring Ethereal's safety. I could also placate the workers who wanted justice, meeting them halfway. Then, Crow came bursting out of the labs.
Moment.
I need to run! Hey, Gladiator!
What? He's going places.
Crow needs to be apprehended immediately.
Crow, get back. Get back, Crow.
Even with half the prison mobilized, Crow managed to give us the slip and started negotiating from a safe spot. His infection had clearly taken hold, and whatever was happening down there was putting him under incredible amounts of duress.
Hey, Crow, what? Oh no. You're still conscious, so that's a good thing. Crow, the infection.
What about it?
It's progressed so much, I don't
Oh my god. Listen, Rose.
What are you going to do?
I was never against Ethereal's plan. Oh, thank you for trying to shoot me.
Yes, please don't shoot him.
Listen, I've never been against you guys, but I haven't seen evidence that you guys have done what you're doing, what you're promising. You promised to bring him back. I saw the thing that you're trying to contain me in, and the fact that you guys want to kill me.
I don't want to kill you, I want you apprehended so we can have this conversation. This works.
Oh, I'm not dealing with that, no.
Wait, who do you want back, Crow? Who do you want back?
Oh, I'm not going to apprehend you if you're talking.
Well, this guy's, yeah. No, I just want to...
Keep him right there. I don't want him anywhere else. I don't want him anywhere else. He hasn't committed a crime.
Rose,
I'm not
here to run. I just would like a barrier protect me from you guys. And, well...
Yeah, I'm not gonna kill you. Just don't run.
I'm talking to you.
Bro, who do you want back?
Crow's infected.
Well, okay. I'm not exactly infected. I think that's tough to say. I think an infected is like saying that I'm
your entire body. I think,
okay, maybe I'm a bit green, but like
maybe you're a bit green, huh?
Drink milk.
I can protect you, I can keep you alive, but you need to
Rose.
cooperate, alright? We're working on a
Rose.
cure, we're going to get you cured, alright?
I've never had problems with you. You guys broke my trust, okay? You brought it back by him being there. But I need my father alive, like you promised. You promised me
Is Ethereal not
that
following
this
through?
test, I don't know. I've had no evidence. That's the thing. It's like asking me to kill a group of people and then not telling me why.
Bro, it's fine. They're just trying to spare you from turning into a zombie.
Let me tell you right now, nothing about the situation is okay, but Crow, I can protect you, I can get you cured. Let me talk to Ethereal, please. Have faith in this process.
I'm not saying that you can talk to Ethereal right now. I mean, you can bring him up here if he wants to talk to me. But I need proof. I've had none. Like, apparently I'm gonna die in that thing, and then what? You don't have to follow through if I die. If I die, there's no proof that you guys are gonna follow through. You killed me, you use me. That's all you have to do.
You're dead no matter what. I mean, you're just a god.
Hachiman, Crow is not
I'm
to
just
leave
a
this
god.
area for his own protection and ours. I'm going to go downstairs and talk with Ethereal.
I would never get to talk to Ethereal, however, as the murder hobos were at the gate. Now they were claiming that the entire time they had been against Carl, and now with my leadership they were willing to be peaceful and were requesting to come in. This was reasoning that was laughably unbelievable. Not only had they murdered several members of my expedition team, with Kittrix being the only survivor of the encounter, but they were killing people while we were in talks.
They locked me in a room. A rubber room. A rubber room with rats. And rats make me crazy.
Darn it. These better not be the last words I hear.
Crazy ones. They locked me in a room. A rubber room. A rubber room with rats. And rats make me crazy.
Who's the one crazy?
To the Railroad Gang, know that I am willing to come to talk if you disarm at the front gate. I am not looking to start a conflict with you all right now. Alright, well, I hope Reform wasn't part of that, because goodness me.
I told them the only way I was letting them in peacefully is if they disarmed entirely and let themselves be cuffed. Of course, if they had followed through with that, I would have just had them executed in solitary, and despite their murder, they weren't stupid enough to take me up on the one-sided offer. We parted with the understanding that no one in the prison trusted a single outsider.
Those disgusting pieces of filth are responsible for over a dozen deaths of my best men. I would not accept them as prison over my dead body.
Of course, throughout this entire thing, the workers got curious about the director's offices and managed to find an extra level to my office that contained the actual sensitive materials. I suspect that Highspec expected me to be defensive about all of it due to the dungeon-like appearance and documents held within due to his tone.
If you have something to say, we can simply say
Yes, we
it.
do have something to say. No, this is not in the open. You know it's not in the open, so please walk in.
Rose, I'm literally behind you with a sword. Go in.
Why don't we threaten?
Rose, let's go to the actual office and not this facade. So you knew this existed.
I did. It is meant so that prisoners wouldn't get hold of sensitive material while I interviewed them and did therapy and everything.
But the dirty laundry had been aired a long time ago, and the room was just storage meant for a time now half a day past. There was no big secret. I told them as much, and left without being confronted further. Rapid fire events 2, Electric Boogaloo. Crow calmed down and the others began talking to him, which is good because I was incredibly busy. We got confirmation through another death that zombies were out and about during the day. Somehow, Gladiator was still alive, so I tried to send him upstairs to the workers waiting just outside the labs. Had to run interference for Ethereal because my story of his vital research didn't gel with his self-preservatory story of not being a scientist and knowing nothing. The Janeway maneuver was employed.
FYI, in situations like that, try employing the Janeway protocol.
Got it. And what's that?
Good one.
Made absolutely sure everyone was on the same page regarding Gladiator's crimes.
Prison endangerment, vigilantism, murder, and I'm sure you all have a few things to tack onto that.
And not 30 seconds later, an outside gang led by Marley Station announced they had a hostage and were coming to negotiate his release. Now, I went in expecting some brutal terms, but I was not prepared for the sheer tomfoolery of their request.
We need a ransom. We need a stack of gold and a stack of blocks of diamond. And you're gonna have your hostage.
A stack of blocks of diamond.
Yeah, and a stack of gold.
That's right. In the middle of a zombie apocalypse, on the deadly island that wasn't escapable without risk, they wanted diamonds and money. You know, the thing that everyone on the map had an abundance of anyways. Not food, or weapons, or horses, or armor, or enchantments, or potions, or the cure, or guarantees, or safe passage, or literally anything that would be actually useful to them. They wanted money they would never be able to use because they took a hostage and betrayed the prison. It was so baffling, me as a player pointed this out in a counterproductive attempt to get them to demand something more substantial.
Why in the world would you want a stack of diamonds and gold?
Okay,
I'm genuinely confused.
Spanish.
What in the
English or
world
Spanish?
would you have use for a stack of diamonds and gold? We're
That's
currently
what we
in a
asking
crisis
for.
situation. It's not going to be worth anything in an apocalypse scenario.
But they brushed me off and gave me 2 days to give in to the demand.
Like, it's not my problem. You can think about it. You can think about it. We're gonna give you time.
think about it.
We're gonna give you 2 days.
The poorly thought out execution couldn't have been more obvious with only 1 more day left in the event anyways, giving me a lot of time to think about what I was actually going to do about them. Even if the gang's terms were ridiculous, the hostage they held was Ervil, one of the guards who had personally guarded me in the past days. I wasn't about to let them die, but rushing in was a bad idea. During the negotiation, the railway gang appeared again, and this time a true effort to negotiate was made by a familiar figure, Draconleaf. He was having a tough time controlling the gang, but managed to prevent kidnapping and murder attempts, which was more than what we'd seen before. It was then that Ethereal decided to hop into comms.
Attention members of the facility. We have a situation. 2 patient zero have been noticed upon the facility grounds. There is a biohazard containment breach that is no doubt something you have noticed with being in this facility. That containment breach has reached to critical mass, to such a point that the Project Storm maximum is coming towards this prison. Within 72 hours, this facility will be cleansed of all biological light and all biologicals that exist within the area of the desert. If you are anywhere with the railway gang or with outside sources, I recommend praying to any god you still believe in. I am researching a solution with Lexi Zargon and few other subjects currently within Omnicon Lab. Please stay out if you do not wish to die. Oh, one more thing. I wouldn't recommend wearing armor within the next 48 hours. That is all. Thank you for your time.
Being obliterated wasn't something the outsiders were very fond of, so Drakon was sent to negotiate for the gang, who was suddenly very willing and eager to enter the prison. I wonder why. Drakon made me aware that while there were certainly bloodthirsty members among them, there were also those who had fought defensively.
We have decided that we will be peaceful, but as soon as this thing is over, we'd like to be harboured in the prison for now.
Something I can easily extend to you, Drakon. I don't know if I can extend it to the rest of the railway.
Okay.
They have murdered several of the people under my charge. You realize that?
Kill for necessity. We never tried to kill them. We just wanted to survive peacefully. We did not condone
please, we put him in prison.
That is such
all my
a
railway
loaded
people
request.
are gonna die.
Yes, quite possibly, and I think that is rather unfortunate, and I wish I could do something, but I don't think anyone in this prison would accept them being harbored within it because of their murders.
However, I knew for a fact that the leaders of the Moss Gang and Railway Gang were 100% involved with Ghost's assassination. The terms ended up being the same. With at least a rudimentary agreement reached, Drakon left to posit the idea to the gang. However, as I was going down to check on the labs, Drakon perished to the same gang who was holding Ervil hostage. Seeing that everyone had pretty much ransacked the place with unbridled curiosity, I told them all to get the heck out and let Ethereal work.
Not Ethereal, he is essential personnel. Everyone out of the laboratory, give him space to work, please.
Then I did something that would change the course of the event. Spy's Plays was sentenced to a duel with Concrafts, and I was losing my mind.
Holy sweet Mother Teresa on a Mercedes-Benz, this is a day.
Shout out to Fluffawumpkins the Destroyer, my cat, and Kittrix, my bodyguard, for keeping my sanity intact. I regret to inform you all that I did not show the same courtesy to Kittrix, who kept losing me due to my sporadic and quick movement from situation to situation. In fact, here, some quick trauma recap from Kittrix.
They're all swarming us. I'm trying to give cookies. Take my cookies. Oh my god!
Curious is
I knew we were all gonna die. Okay, I gotta live. Priority, live. He's gonna suffocate, keep slow. You guys might have thought, maybe Kitrix was like way too, way too scared. Why are they nervous like an hour before the event starts, huh? That's why. I knew it. I knew I had to run. I feel so bad. I would never betray somebody like that. I did not, but I had to go. We were going to die. Okay. Woo! It's like, what the heck's happening? Death! Death is happening. It's just like, it's weird. Like, you think it's just a game, but then you get attached, and then you actually do feel sad. Wolf, our buddy, our homie we stuck with all the event, is dead. Molnir, who seemed like a freaking awesome person.
There he is! He's my favorite white boy!
Is dead.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine, and you're not really fine, and you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Back to it.
Hey, editing Rose here, future Rose, whatever you want to call me. I found something rather odd upon looking back into the footage. Apparently, I was under the impression that Marley Station, the guy who was extorting the prison, was the one who killed Drawcon. And I was under that impression because I was very sleep deprived, very out of it, just completely bonkaroos. This is not Marley Station's. This was actually one of Drawcon's posse, and I don't know why he got killed by this guy. But I find it really funny because if I had known this, I would have just done something else. I would not have taken the actions I'm about to take. So just keep in mind that throughout this entire video, I am under the impression Marley Station's the one that did it, and I will be presenting it as such because that's how I viewed it at the time. The more you know.
I met with the railway gang with the gates closed so they couldn't pull a fast one. It was discreet and private as to not alarm anyone else in the prison. In theory. Drawcon had saved my life, and now he had given his life in hopes of saving those he cared about, even if they were rough around the edges. Even if these murder hobos didn't deserve it, I wasn't about to disrespect such a memory. They would be extended one singular hand, on the stipulation that they complete a job, one they were very well suited for.
Here's the deal. If you save Arville and eliminate the gang that is attempting to extort the prison, you get let in.
Wait. We want to extract with you guys. So if we do that, can we extract?
If you do that, I will guarantee you a safe passage on the extraction. But you have to save Arville.
I was tired of seeing the people I cared about die, and I hoped they were too. I was hit with this before the end.
How is the mood of the prison doing?
I think everybody's very happy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please try and keep it
Yeah,
that way.
so.
You had a fashion show in the middle of all of this? You had a fashion show!
They told us to take off our armor, and so we were like, okay, it's time for a fit check.
Bro, I have been so tense for like, how long has it been now? Like almost 3 hours, and you run up on me with that?
And then Ethereal chimed in once again.
Rose, if you're feeling a little bit tense, I have something for you.
Yes.
Attention facility. We have captured subject 0, and will begin resonance cascade sequence. You all have exactly 20 minutes to go near the cell area and line up. Within 20 minutes, everyone wearing diamond armor of any kind shall begin getting infected. The resonance cascade will be a diamond bounce, let's just say a diamond bounce signal sent from a central chamber. Once that central chamber activates, every diamond armor in this facility will start turning people into zombies, infected, and other of the like. Please remove all armor. Get to the front prison area next to the cells. Those cells will keep you safe as iron negates the effect. The bars work as a resonance capture device. You now have 15 minutes.
Gordon doesn't need to hear all this. He's a highly trained professional.
It was time to enact the cure he'd cooked up, and while it wasn't what I imagined it was still a solution that gave us plenty of time. The railway gang worked fast, probably spurred on by their incoming demise, and delivered Arvel to us having murdered the rival gang, securing their safe passage. It was that moment, after sacrificing and compromising all day, that I saw the fruits of our labor. After being pressed, tormented, and manipulated in every way, we had all but chosen the path of mutual annihilation. Usually, that would have happened. Happens all the time. But what happened here was different. Sure, it wasn't perfect. People had concerns, differences, some irreconcilable and ugly. But on that day, I sat exhausted at the entrance of a united prison that had no true enemies and had risen above their inner demons. That day, I had been right to bet on humanity's good nature. Any one person could have ended the whole, and I suspect some very nearly enacted plans that would have, but they didn't. And now, I was proud of everyone. We celebrated.
Yes, I want to see in the chat, do you guys think this is overall, by the end of it so far, is this a good event or a bad event? Good or bad?
And then the day ended. If that day looked tiring, you would be right. I posted a heartfelt message to everyone in the Citizens Herald Discord, then went straight to bed. The only thing I really thought about was the people. If we were going to kill each other, we would have done so. Meaning day 6 was not only going to be the final day, but one supposedly devoid of mass conflict. This was an ending I was perfectly fine with. Too many events end with the predictable fight at the end. However, we still needed to do something, and full trials seemed the route to go. I no longer had to condemn people to death, so I reversed all plans to do so. Gladiator's ambition had earned him enough ire that he'd most likely be arrested come the mainland, but I could hold a trial and give him a chance at life with a banishment. I was thinking along those lines for a few people, but it's not worth talking about any further because nothing along those lines happened. Under the impression we had time, the first thing on the docket was recompleting the diamond quota. We had strategically hidden the majority of the quota, knowing people would be searching for it. However, due to the mass arming of the prison and Ethereal's insistence that we ditch all our diamond gear, it needed to be shored up. I decided to use the actually safe secondary mine that Carl Crafts had refused to use due to what I can only assume was evil shenanigans. It was at this time I was hit with this gem.
I'm afraid there's still an authority, Gladiator.
Still an authority, and that authority is you, huh?
Correct, actually.
Judge, Judy, and execution.
Well, I see your double standard doubled over and died.
There will be no executions.
I mentioned when I said there would be no executions, and I wasn't aiming to kill anyone by this point, but others had different ideas.
It's done, Rose.
Don't do this, Rose.
It's done. Ow!
Okay. With Kitrix and CCG Chris on top of things, I headed up to the top to be greeted by... Crow?
Rose.
I accidentally hit her, of course. Wait a minute.
Not only was it a surprise to see him out of containment, it was a surprise to see him alive at all. You see, when Ethereal was conducting his Renaissance Cascade, he had to use Crow's infection as a baseboard to launch it. The strain Crow carried and the strain the zombies carried, however, was different. Crow had survived the process, and while the Cascade had given us time, it had not repelled the threat completely. With less time than I thought, I decided taking the diamonds and running as soon as possible was the best play, but yet another area of misfortune befell us. A group of about 20 people, including Highspec, Domus, and Race Champ, had decided that they didn't like the prison and would be taking their chances with the zombies in the wasteland. They were gathered on the wall to make their case as to why everyone should leave with them, citing untrustworthiness and a rumored lack of spots for everyone to leave.
If you guys can look at me right now, my name is Highspec, and I'm wearing diamond armor right now. I know, pretty anticlimactic considering we were told that we're gonna get infected and killed by the deadly virus if we wear this thing. And I'm thinking this is just another lie that the prison came up with to keep us in control. Just like they have been doing this entire time. This entire experiment, all that's been happening to us is the prison comes up with a new excuse. They switch the warden. They tell us that they're not doing any experiments, nothing on the people, they didn't create the virus, they're there to create the cure. How long are you going to believe that? So, I'd like you guys to join us and venture into the desert. And instead of waiting for the prison to give us the green light, instead of waiting for some magical escape, for some helicopters, to go mine more diamonds, whatever. You know that's not gonna happen. What if there's not enough spot in the helicopter for you? What if the cure was never even a real thing? So now's your time. You need to make the decision.
A decent speech. Of course, it had a few issues. Firstly, the blimp that could very clearly carry everyone was right there and had arrived at the start of the day. You would just have to walk 2 minutes to get to safety. And secondly, by Ethereal's own admission, the cascade was over, so diamond armor was safe to wear again. Either way, I couldn't exactly argue with the rest. We were inherently keeping secrets from the people by virtue of our place in the event. And if someone felt they couldn't trust me, even after day 5, then I wasn't going to stop them, even if I was under the impression that not boarding the blimp meant certain death. Viewing the entire prison as shady is entirely fair, so the best I could say was,
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle. Bye-bye!
I would have argued harder to save them, but, well, Ethereal kneecapped me a bit by asking me to relay that I was a rhino for some reason, and it had completely thrown me off. Turns out the idea was cool as a secret underlying thing, but not as something you just tell the entire server. Either way, it wasn't exactly a surprise to see that only about 1/4 of the population had left. Some of the people on the wall even returned after walking away. I mean, rescue was right there. All we had to do was walk a few moments and we'd be safe. Surely nothing could happen between now and then.
Not stealing the blimp. What? They're stealing the blimp?
That's not good.
And while I was walking to address the situation,
Doom us all.
Did somebody just kill the cat? No! Oh! No! Rose did it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm just gonna hold you on this leash here really quick. You're going to be my impromptu cat for the time being, and then I might kill you.
Can I be uncuffed?
No, you killed my cat, you dullard.
I did not kill your cat.
No, Gladiator
I'm being
is gone.
violated.
Oh no. It's tragic. Hey, I have a much more pressing issue for you. Crow just killed my cat.
I throat grabbed Crow and dragged him down into the lab's containment, fully intent on feeding him into the fully cranked resonance cascade as if it were a big blender. But Crow made a very good point. You see, all the way back in Lion King on day 1, I was coming off a 3-year hiatus and had decided to mine in the city of Beanatopia. I had almost perished down there, and it was Crow who stepped up to help me get out. To think that all of this, everything you are watching, could have never have happened had I lost that last bit of health. After much deliberation, and deciding a soul was worth a soul, I was eventually convinced not to murder Crow. And besides, Fluffawumpkins was logged into the Epsilon project so I could bring them back.
Yes.
Stick the cat into the Epsilon.
Yes, of course I stuck the cat into the Epsilon. Do you see how much space there is on that disc?
Every 3 a.m. this place lights up like a Christmas tree.
Now, I need to back up a second entirely separate from the character of Rose to elaborate on some things about this upcoming conflict. I'm about to spoil the ending of the entire event, so if you for some reason haven't watched it, go watch Captain Lights' video on it. It's his event. I can't think of why you wouldn't have unless you're my grandmother, who I know watches these videos. Hi, Grandma! But I have to talk about the sour tinge in this entire last fight, and unfortunately, in this video meant to be an entertaining story, this part isn't very much fun. If you want to skip it, I don't blame you. Skip to here. The dynamic in a role-playing game, no matter the medium, is that the game master is the world and makes it move, and the players inhabit that world and make it move right back. That ebb and flow is very important in structured role-playing, even if it's one of those old AD&D games where the GM requires you to drop your pants and take out your 10-foot pole if you want to survive the dungeon he's running you through. It is an inherently cooperative experience, and all players involved should be able to trust one another. I once saw a Project Zomboid Civ video where a group of players decided to play a downright evil faction of cannibals, and as far as I know, they were fine because they had outlined their entire MO, why they were doing everything, and how it would serve the story. Abrasive, but still players a game master could trust. I say this to make it clear that when I say murder hobo and railway gang, I mean 2 different kinds of players within the same group. The Railway Gang is a group of people who saw the corruption in the prison and escaped, either wishing for change or deciding to fight against it. Members include people like Drawconleaf and remnants of the anarchist revolution. That's why, despite my surprise at their reasoning, being against Carl Crafts for them wasn't exactly news. The murder hobo's reasoning, however, was LMAO, it would be funny. I'm not going to be naming names, but if you were in the event, you know very well who these people were and how unfortunate their toxic PvP no roleplay mentality was. I think I've talked enough about them for you to know how close this event came to having a dumpster fire of an ending. But I want to highlight the positive in this. Those players stood out, and that's a good thing. I hear about events where these players are rampant, common, and those events are lesser for it because everyone there is under the impression that it's a competition, not a cooperative storytelling experience. There are so many great friendly people I have met in Mind Planet, and I am very happy to say the murder hobos are in the vast minority. That, in a climate and genre where people will kill each other just to increase their odds of being in a creator's video, is something to celebrate. So, to all of you in Mind Planet who played in the event, well done. I know I've only been in 2, but it's been an absolute pleasure every single time. Give yourselves a pat on the back for being awesome players and awesome people, even when you are killing my cat. No, I am not letting that go.
And now for something completely different.
Carl Crafts had remembered everything by now and had teamed up with the Railway Gang to oppose the escapees in an attempt to get his revenge. With the quota tucked away in a helicopter, opportunists switching sides, and dozens of loyalists standing at the ready, the fight began. And oh boy, was it a fight!
Onto Utopia, through the sea of blood. Charge to the Blimp!
Bonanza. I don't suppose you've come to talk.
We just want one thing. We want to kill GoldenEye.
I extended you a hand despite you having killed one that I was very close to. This death is a dishonor to everyone who got us here. And therefore, all our freedom, we will not succumb to those who would wish to destroy everything we have worked hard to build.
That's real, Putting a real chat.
I'm so glad I'm not getting hit at this point.
Despite Carl being dead, the Railway Gang persisted, telling us it would all stop if we handed over Goldenite. Laughable. We don't negotiate with terrorists.
Hey, Bonanza's family? Put them in a warehouse for me, would you?
My survival was getting ridiculous. Despite being blinded by rage and wearing incomplete iron armor, I had survived 3 zombie infections, several deadly battles, a deadly fall, and even a Captain Light-sanctioned assassin. Despite my cockroach award, nothing had changed. The battle was in a stalemate with the railway gang holding the high ground well enough to make Obi-Wan proud, and none of my tactics or speeches had made a difference. With both a refusal to see a battle of attrition and a thematic acknowledgement spurred on by even the server owner wanting me dead, I decided it was time.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
My life is expendable. I will lead this charge. You guys have to finish it. It's been a real one. For everyone who's been disgraced by this move.
Go! We got this!
One of Wolf's last messages was to tell you,
guys, we got this.
We're making memories.
We go back to the rails and we'll live peacefully.
we will survive this. We are strong. We got this. We're alive for a reason.
I will do everything in my power to get you all out of here alive. And so the prison was abandoned, consumed by the Tree of Life, and death was cheated yet again. The outsiders who had left before the fight found refuge from the zombies at the end of the railroad tracks and on the ocean, banding together to ensure each other's survival in the harsh climate. Details of their exploits would be sparse, but satellite imagery would confirm their continued prosperity away from the lies and threats of the prison. The Moss Gang would fade into obscurity, but rumors of plant-like cryptids would haunt the island for as long as it remained. The worship of the Moss would be classified as a potential branch of the Tree of Life and put under Biohazard Watch. It is unknown if members of the gang went out with the outsiders, but if they did, they are surely still out there. Having carved a bloody path through the island, the railway gang would die as they lived, by the sword. Dispatched at the Blimp, they would never cause trouble again, and those logged in Project Epsilon were re-evaluated. The Mind Planet Anarchist Revolution had suffered greatly after the death of their leader, Deadline, and their end continued this trend. Their attempt to seize the Blimp failed, and so its surviving members vowed revenge before scattering into the wind. All civilian survivors of the Blimp battle were transported safely to the city of Avalon, where they were briefed on their circumstances. All were offered jobs in compensation for the grief Visionary Holdings had caused them, and while some would eventually leave the city, most would go on to enjoy the benefits provided. Some, however, would mysteriously disappear after refusing to hand over classified documents. Visionary Holdings would see the return of its supposedly dead acting CEO. Under Rose's leadership, it was found that Carl Crafts had committed every safety and environmental crime imaginable when constructing the prison on the island. This, along with Rose's willingness to attempt to make things right, resulted in major compensation packages halving the company's GDP. Eventually, it was publicly announced that Visionary Holdings would dissolve. However, rumors of the company's continued operation would circulate for years to come. Shaking off a close call, Unknown Ethereal returned to the mainland and continued as he always had, propelling humanity to heights previously unknown at any necessary cost. Lexi Zargon would come to be a prolific scientist, continuing cure development for the Tree of Life in hopes of finding a more permanent solution. However, with all the resources now at her disposal and the revelation of the Epsilon Project, she would come to research a new passion of hers: cat people. Carl Kratz would continue to exist within the Epsilon Project's cloud, saved by Crow's sacrifices and deals. Crow would continue to safeguard his husband until Carl was called upon once again for another purpose, and another death. Having helped significantly with information and the assassination of Gladiator, Raz Cherry would continue under Unknown Ethereal after the events of the prison. Her exploits are and will remain extensively classified. However, she rose through the ranks incredibly fast due to her commitment and skill. The same could be said for Golden Knight and Maverick. Having been instrumental in mopping up the terrorists attacking the Blimp, Golden Knight continued to work under Ethereal as a hitman for many years, both because he saw no escape from the Epsilon Project, and because the position would allow him to keep track of Maverick, who was suffering greatly from memories of his past lives. A vile and corrupt individual, Mr. Gladiator's power-hungry campaign came to an abrupt end as every plot he had concocted fell apart. His web of lies and manipulation revealed after its ghost reconvened and compared notes, he would go down as one of the worst police chiefs in recent history. Where even Deadline's DNA was kept in the Epsilon Project, Rose made sure to eliminate any chance of Gladiator coming back permanently, finally putting an end to his traitorous actions ex-editor-in-chief. Deadline Green's unjust execution had shaken the prison to its core, and it seemed the same could be said of Deadline himself. An anomaly presented itself in the Epsilon Project, and Deadline receded into dormancy. Some hoped he would be seen again, but if it were to be so, it would be far in the future.
Oh, is this a New Vegas reference? I love that game, especially watching Yes Man spiral into despair as he's forced to say yes to every objectively terrible action I take, and talking to my own brain that was—
Curious Moore had perished during Callcraft's death game. However, much like last time, a semblance of her will remained. A particular glitch in company systems would keep Lexi Zargon up at night every Wednesday morning as another ghost manifested in the machine. Wolf Buttercup and Kittrix had perished in defense of the prison, but both found themselves awake once again in the Epsilon Project's chambers. They would find themselves working for Rose on humanitarian aid projects in other countries as special operatives. These operations, however, were always clouded in secrecy. Having been freshly betrayed, its ghost was forced to reevaluate many of the soldiers in his private military. However, with a successful evacuation, he found that his company had lost very little in the long run. He could finally put all this legal drama behind him. And so, Captain Letts brought an end to the event, and the world continued as it had, bleeding in the name of progress. I am exhausted. I went into this with the goal of making a video shorter than the last one, and failed horribly. There's a lot more to put in here, and I shall likely make a supplementary video with that material later, but for now I must bid you all farewell due to a lack of time. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, make sure to dislike the video.